Chairman Jesus Maya, Vice Chairman Antonio Hernandez, President Emeritus Hernando Perez, members of the Board of Regents, University of the Philippines President Angelo Jimenez, Miriam College President Laura Quiambao del Rosario, presidents, heads, officials of other academic institutions, officials and representatives from CHED, Governor Mandanas, congressmen and other leaders from government units, our industry partners, officers and members of professional organizations, officers and members of civic and religious organizations, my UB family, my Marino and UP friends, my Deltan sisters, my relatives, my dearest Michael, Kian, and Andy, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is nice to be a part of a great tradition, guided and inspired by a glorious past, and determined to face the challenges of the present. We, the third generation of the University of Batangas, the 3Gs, we have reason to hope for a future worthy of the past. That future begins today, and the tradition continues. This institution has existed for 78 years of deep commitment to academic excellence and service to community. Folks, allow me to tell you the UB story. The year was 1946. The country had just gone through the horrors of the Second World War. Many in Batangas, although lucky to have survived, were helpless and lived in poverty. They were actually already poor, even before the war. It is in this environment when 6 gentlemen Batangueños got together with a common vision to help the country rise from the ruins of the Second World War, to help the youth of Batangas who were born poor, help them by giving them a chance for a bright future. From the efforts of our founding fathers, Western Philippine Colleges, now University of Batangas, was born. Please allow me to give due honor to our 6 founders. Father Vicente R. Catapang, the venerable priest who was a senior voice in the group. He provided overall administrative direction during the early days of the school and was appointed as the first president. After this, he went on to establish the barrio of Santa Teresita. Attorney Francisco G. Perez, a well-known politician at the time, he was instrumental in negotiating the lease from the government of the MH Del Pilar Street lot, which is still being used today. That was a significant milestone as it provided us with a true campus, different from the rented house where classes moved from. He also served as Dean of the College of Liberal Arts. His sons, Dr. Abelardo and Attorney Nani, would later serve as presidents. Attorney Jesus Lorenzo Arguelles was an educator, columnist, poet, playwright, and athlete. As a lawyer, he was known for his kindness and compassion for the poor, as manifested by the many pro bono cases he handled for them. He was the first appointed executive secretary of the school and custodian of records. Mayor Roman Perez was the mayor of Batangas in the 1940s, a true Baraco. He was a major in a guerrilla force during the Japanese occupation. He likewise served this institution as its treasurer. Attorney Pablo Umali was the businessman, educator from Lipa. He was also a municipal judge assigned in the barrio of San Luis. He served as the Dean of the College of Commerce of this institution. He was also a writer. And lastly, my grandfather, Mr. Juan Javier, a very simple man, an educator, and a gentleman farmer. Let me tell you his story. Lola Juan's family owned a little farm in Santa Rita, and he enjoyed afternoons with farmers in the rice fields and fisher folk from the playa. He spent a good amount of time with them, and he witnessed firsthand their difficult lives amidst their poverty. How they could not afford to send their children to college, especially a college in Manila. And with this situation, it seemed the life of the father would likely be the fate of the child. No matter how hard they worked, Lola Juan felt he needed to do something. Lola Juan also had the opportunity to study abroad. Besides a string of degrees from the University of the Philippines and the University of Manila, he was fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to study in the University of Arizona, taking up his master's there in the 1920s. When the Second World War ended, he felt it was time to set things in motion. His string of degrees seemed to be preparation for a career as an educator. His exposure to the poor, struggling farmers seemed to have been his strong inspiration to pursue this dream, however difficult it seemed. He saw that education may be the ticket out of poverty for those farmers and fisherfolk. It was in these circumstances that Lolo, along with the other founders, found inspiration and determination to do their part to help the country, starting with their fellow Batangueños. The goal to provide quality, affordable, accessible education. They immediately got to work, conceptualizing what was to become Western Philippine colleges, starting with the core values. First and foremost is faith in God. Our founders acknowledge that all that they had and will ever have come from the Supreme Being. And with the strongest of faith in the Almighty, they knew that the formidable task that they had ambitiously aimed for needed the Almighty's blessings. Second, love of wisdom. The promise of educating the youth of Batangas by providing quality education was their commitment. For the less fortunate ones, education was seen as the key solution to alleviate them from poverty, or at least give them a fighting chance. And so it is with this noble purpose of service to fellow men that this institution was born. By educating the youth of Batangas, the institution would contribute to nation building. These, our three core values, spirit, intellect, purpose, remain the hallmark of what this institution is today. As in anything that is just about to be established, I imagine the new school's first few days, months, years were not easy. These 6 gentlemen pooled their resources together and established a humble school. It initially had 48 students housed in a small rented building. With hard work and determination of our 6 founders, their families and friends, slowly but unceasingly the institution grew. To show gratitude, I would have to name some dear folks who have gone before us. Mrs. Josefina Javier, Mrs. Aurora Velasquez, Mrs. Conrada Perez, Mrs. Flordelisa Arguelles, Senora Mary Ruth Acededa, Miss Aurora Babasa, Miss Belen Perez, Attorney Juan Ramos, Attorney Manuel Panganiban, Please pardon if I am unable to name everyone. They were instrumental in growing the institution. Some, as the support team of our founders, all share the same love and commitment to this institution that helped it survive and prosper to what it is today. By the decade of the 60s, the second generation of UB family, the two Gs, were to assume leadership positions. Governor Vicente Mayo served as chairman of the board from 1972 to 2013. He was also a public servant who served as governor of the province of Batangas from 1987 to 1995. His leadership in both was evidenced by the huge progress achieved during that time. In UB, he coined the moniker Brahman. His analogy, like a raging bull, the growth of UB seems unstoppable. Aside from these, he also served the Philippine Red Cross Batangas chapter for 4 decades and the Batangas Bay Coastal Resource Management Foundation. Dr. Abelardo B. Perez served as president from 1968 to 1972 and again from 1975 to 2007. He was trained and licensed to practice in specialties of ophthalmology and otolaryngology with head and neck surgery in the United States, being a diplomate board member and fellow of these specialties in both the US and the Philippines. He is likewise a diplomate and fellow in head and neck cancer surgery, as well as plastic and reconstructive surgery and cosmetic surgery. Aside from this, he holds a master's degree in business administration from the Ateneo de Manila. He co-founded St. Patrick's Hospital with his wife, Rose Martha. He is well known and respected in both the fields of medicine and the academe, as exemplified in the numerous awards he received and positions held throughout his lifetime. Governor Mayo and Dr. Abelardo were partners for several decades. And under their leadership, the institution experienced steady growth in its program offerings, enrollment, faculty, employees, and facilities. Slowly, the institution increased its offerings in basic education, in the fields of business, tourism, law, arts and sciences, education, medical sciences and nursing, engineering, and technology. Dr. Abelardo was succeeded by his younger brother, Attorney Hernando B. Perez, as president of this institution. Attorney Nani served in government as congressman, deputy speaker, secretary of transportation and communications, secretary of justice, while also leading his own law firm. He is also a law professor, and he taught in the Ateneo de Manila School of Law, the University of the East, later in Angeles University Foundation, and of course, UB. He served as UB president from 2007 to 2023, though his involvement with UB also started in the 1960s. During his presidency, UB experienced rapid growth and was granted autonomous status. Attorney Nani is now President Emeritus. Most Batangueños here today know these gentlemen and their work, not just in UB, but in their respective professions and as civic leaders of the community. But if I may, I'd like to talk about my own father, the late Dr. Christy Ramos Hernandez, who likewise served in the UB administration in the decade of the 70s until his death in 2001. Papa was actually from Bulacan. His father was a viajero who transported fruits from Bulacan to be sold in Manila. Unfortunately, business did not go so well, and so when poverty hit the family, Papa had to work in the market to sell fruits. Nagtulak din po siya ng kariton para maglakaw ng prutas at alfahol. Noong siya ay nasa elementary public school sa Bulacan, nangihiram lang po siya ng uniforme at rubber shoes sa mga kaklase kung may PE class sila. Kasi walang-wala po talaga silang pera. Wala po silang pera para ipadala siya sa kolehiyo. Sayang naman ang kanyang talino. Luckily, post-war, he was chosen as a government pensionado scholar and was able to study in the University of the Philippines. After graduation, he stayed in UP as a professor and administrator. And later, UP sent him to Ohio State University for graduate school. Back home in the 70s, he taught in UP, in LaSalle, and here at UB. He was UB's vice chairman of the board, and he established what is now the largest department, the College of Engineering, where he served as dean. Again, education was the ticket that pulled Papa out of poverty and provided a brighter future for us, his children. And you folks would understand if I mention my mother, the late Mrs. Ofelia Javier Hernandez. From her tween days, listening to Lolo Juan's conversations with the other founders about the establishment of the school, later she served as board member and Pa's co-teacher, and more importantly, as Papa's constant companion, partner, and muse. As a child, I would accompany my parents to some events here. Graduations, blessings of new buildings, lectures, etc. On and off, I witnessed the many events and achievements of the institution as it slowly grew and grew. There was much progress under the leadership of the two Gs. In 1996, we proudly renamed ourselves to the University of Batangas. Thanks, of course, to our two Gs. As for me, shortly thereafter, I went abroad, saw the world outside our beloved Philippines. It was a little more than a decade ago, upon my return to the country, when I joined the UB administration. During Attorney Nani's term, I served in the finance department, as this was my work experience in industry. In the last decade, I have witnessed how this institution has grown tremendously. First, the establishment of our second campus in the vibrant Lipa city. We now have 3 major buildings there and can boast of top-of-the-line laboratories for our tourism and hospitality management offerings, a crime scene plaza for our criminal justice students, a fancy business and innovation office for our business incubatees. These are just examples of the recent improvements that we have done in our Lipa campus. Here in Hilltop, Batangas City, we also just recently doubled our land area, which allowed for the establishment of the Millennium Campus across the street. It is now the site of a gigantic gym that can accommodate 4,000. Finished just last year, it has already been used as venue for graduations, sports events, concerts, and many other activities. I am sure it will witness several milestones in the lives of our UB students. Those are just some of the recent additions to our facilities. We are continuously trying to improve and expand our campuses. As for the academic side, we are proud of the steady increase in the number of program offerings in the fields that I mentioned earlier, alongside the continuous elevation of its accreditation status. We strive to continuously increase and reach for higher levels of accreditation. It is affirmation that we must be doing it right. We likewise have centers of excellence and development, and we were granted autonomous status in 2010. Expanding our reach outside the province of Batangas is our graduate school extension program in Mindoro and Quezon. Among the student population of these programs are themselves leaders of government units, businesses, and other academic institutions. We have produced thousands of graduates, including board and bar top-notchers and passers. Our distance education program is the first and only CHED-approved private distance education in Calabarzon. Our 20-year history with this concept includes researches, the in-house development of a learning management system, and later, the adoption of a more complex system, which was piloted with a few classes. This helped us tremendously when the pandemic hit, as we were ready to implement distance learning institution-wide. In the last 2 years, we also established our Center for Continuing Education and Lifelong Learning and our Center for Business and Innovation. In addition, we had just recently incorporated GIA, which stands for Gabay, Inspirasyon, Yakap, at Adhikain Clinic. This clinic was created to provide counseling and other related services such as assessments, mental health literacy trainings and workshops, thus extending our service to the community. Committed to quality, we are also ISO certified. Of course, the last 78 years were not all easy years. Just like most institutions, we also had our share of difficulties. Some years of declining enrollment, dismal exam results, poorly maintained facilities, outdated or inadequate equipment, worrisome cash balance due to sluggish financials. We've gone through ups and downs, but mostly ups, I think. Though not all issues have been completely addressed just yet, overall, we managed to pull through, thanks to our people. All the successes that I mentioned were attained under the leadership of our 2Gs and with the collaborative efforts, hard work, and dedication of each member of the UB family, and with the support of our friends from government, industry, and other academic institutions. And I thank all of you here today who have been our partners in this journey. And with this glorious past, it is now the turn of the third generation of UB, the 3Gs, to continue what our founders and 2Gs have started. But just like those who came before us, we 3Gs are likewise beset by our unique set of challenges. We do acknowledge that the challenges during the time of our founding fathers, the challenges during the time of our 2Gs, and the challenges of the present are different. However, they are all challenges nonetheless, each a reflection of the times. All were unique, all were difficult, but I pray all the ones now still surmountable. First, the rapid development and adoption of technology. If I may share, before I joined UB, I was actually employed abroad in the technology industry. There, I witnessed the very fast-paced development of new products. There, I appreciated the mindset of tech people, that of constant creativity and innovation. There, I witnessed how, lacking the creativity and innovation, not being among the first to market and without constant development, how that can cause products and companies to be surpassed by competition and eventually fold. And since we cannot go back to the old days when things were simpler and slower paced, we have to embrace this world as it is today. Though a term coined close to a decade ago, the fourth industrial revolution is still a recurring theme in several conferences. Some even mention the fifth industrial revolution. Alongside this is the role of the academics. Is it possible that many of today's jobs might be done by machines in a few years? We have certainly seen much strides in automation and digitalization in the past decades. And so, how do we prepare our students to be future ready? Artificial intelligence is everywhere. About a year ago, the launch of ChatGPT to the public caused much stir in the news. And recently, we've heard about AGI and Project Q Star. What exactly are those? And as academicians, what changes do we have to do? One of the big tasks that we have as educators is to prepare our graduates for employability. How do we do that, given this fast-paced and ever-evolving environment? In addition, there are many surveys that show that there is a gap between what our colleges produce and what our employers from industry require. How do we bridge that academe-industry gap? Technology can also be costly. For all its benefits that supposedly can help with efficiencies and better production of output, it can also be expensive. Tech products are constantly being updated, becoming so obsolete so quickly, not to mention the training required, forces users to constantly update both their tools and skills. For a private academic institution such as ours, it can be burdensome. The old borders separating countries are, so to speak, no longer there. Technology now allows us to see and experience what is going on in areas outside our usual circle. How do we ensure that our learners are global citizens equipped with the right skill sets? Globalization is certainly becoming a necessary movement across practically all industries. Technology also gave rise to social media. While that has helped us with a quicker information dissemination process, which can be good, it can also more quickly spread false information. In addition, with so much data available to our students 24/7, how do we teach them to be discerning? I am from Generation X, a digital immigrant. I recognize that the youth whom we are educating today are from Generation Z and Generation Alpha, the digital natives, and there can be challenges there. Another very compelling issue today, particularly with our youth, is that of mental health. The rise in cases of depression among our youth is certainly an issue for us, not just as educators, but as their second parents. And with all the requirements to keep up with this fast-changing world, we still have to be financially viable. Else, all the plans that we have for continuous improvement of our facilities, equipment, training, and initiatives for faculty and employee development might be unachievable. Financial viability can be difficult. Ours is a private university whose clientele comes mostly not from the upper class of society. As was the mission of our founders to provide quality, affordable education. We still aim to do that. Yet, many of our students are still unable to pay full tuition by the time it is due. This can make it difficult for us to manage our resources. I have just laid out the primary considerations we examined amongst my management team during our discussions. And now, with all these challenges of the present, The question is, what will UB do next? What, with 78 glorious years, it seems like a daunting task to lead us into the next chapter of our history. Daunting as it may be, there is a certain excitement that I feel. There is a certain inspiration at the thought that what seeds we are planting now will blossom into a very bright future, hopefully equal to our glorious past. Lucky for us here at UB, some of our 3Gs have already been involved in UB. Chairman Vic Mayo started as our legal affairs officer in 1994. Regent Abigail Perez-Chua has likewise served as Dean and Vice President for more than a decade. Senior Vice President Alex Ramos received his 30 years in service award just last year. There are probably more than 10 of us 3Gs who are already given the training by our 2Gs. We would like to think that we are also part of this glorious past that I've just proudly described. And now it is our turn to lead. And just like our founders and 2Gs, we remain strong in our commitments. First, our commitment to quality education. That has always been our primary goal. But today, we recognize that the educational landscape has changed. And therefore, we need to provide education that is relevant to today's environment. We will approach education with a well-balanced perspective that will touch not only the academics, but will also give emphasis on culture and arts and sports, which can serve as a method to teach the lessons. We will do this while still ensuring that the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic are solid. We will also strive to take care of our community members' mental health. Our GIA Psychological and Counseling Center will soon be open to provide assistance beyond what a usual guidance office could provide. We will open our doors to psychologists and therapists from outside, and we will welcome outside clients as well. Backed by our psychology department and research arm, we envision a continuously developing GIA center. We hope to do our share in helping citizens who are struggling with mental health issues, especially our youth. Furthermore, with Industry 4.0, we will approach education with a mindset that fosters creativity and innovation. With the help of technology and what it is demanding of us, we will strive to create a dynamic environment that hopes to always keep current with the fast-moving world outside our university. Limited financial resources might restrict what we can do. Regardless, we will attempt to teach 21st century skills as we acknowledge that today's relevant skill sets require critical thinking, problem solving, interpersonal skills, and excellent communication skills. Our teaching methods will try to hone these in our learners. We will continue to expand on our Center for Business and Innovation. This was actually envisioned to be a training ground for our students, especially those who are dreaming of becoming entrepreneurs. We aim to help our graduates connect and promote their innovative projects with the outside world. And so we will aim for a stronger academic industry linkage to ensure that our graduates are what the industries are looking for, starting with our alumni. I'm happy to see some of our alumni here today. As part of the UB family, I propose a stronger relationship and collaboration amongst us. I envision an alumni center. Perhaps we start with a small room and then maybe expand later. It is the venue where I hope we and our UB community can spend some time building stronger relations. I know that many of you alone are also our students' parents and potentially their future employers. I'd like to establish a stronger network amongst us, as I am sure many of you, wherever you are, here or abroad, would like to be more involved in UB. And with this, I hope that the issue on employability might be better addressed. We also recognize that we need to produce global citizens who, as proud Filipinos, understand their role in the global environment. As such, we will push for greater internationalization initiatives, including a greater awareness and therefore appreciation of cultures different from ours, a more aggressive approach to collaborations with local and foreign entities, and a consciousness to do their share in shaping a better world of tomorrow. We will formulate a clearer strategy on how to advance our internationalization initiatives, realizing that the world around us is much more closely connected than it was a generation ago. Still, with this global mindset, we will continue to expand our distance education department. We will soon offer graduate programs. We will campaign to increase our enrollment. The official distance ed department is actually very young. It's only 1 semester old. Though we are off to a good start, we hope to reach many potential learners from other provinces and even other countries. Love of wisdom being one of our core values, we will push to create a culture wherein all in our UB family, faculty and employees have a mindset to upskill themselves and even reskill themselves. Maybe some would even cross to other professions. The philosopher defines education as the soul-enriching process that starts at the cradle and ends only at the grave. Thus, our Center for Continuing Education and Lifelong Learning will further expand its offerings of different short courses. Everyone is welcome. Not just individuals, but even companies that need training in areas such as HR, systems, etc. We have already offered basketball clinics, stenography classes, math tutorials, cooking, just to give examples of the wide range of classes we offer. We will continue to expand our research capabilities. We hope to create a stronger research culture in UB. We envision a research center that will have a broader range of thrusts and objectives, and a broader reach of partners, patrons, and beneficiaries. Hopefully, our friends from the academy will continue to partner with us in joint researches, and we would like to invite other schools to collaborate with us as well. And hopefully, our friends from industry will engage us to do research for them. We hope our researchers will continue to produce income-generating projects which we can share with communities whom we serve via our extension services. All of these we will do while we continue with our increased